area is sponsoring, wait just a minute, is sponsoring this virtual candidate forum for the South Carolina State Senate District 42 wait just a minute, Democratic Party primary election. Shana Howell from the Charleston Area League of Women Voters Communications team is our Zoom host for tonight's forum. Observers, please keep your microphones muted and your cameras off. This candidate forum is being recorded, so interested voters can view it on our website, and it usually takes a day or two to get that on our Charleston League of Women Voters website. The forum format is as follows. Candidates will have 60 seconds for opening and closing statements and 90 seconds to answer each question. Judy Pepper, Vice President of Administration, the League, is our timekeeper tonight. Judy's raised her hand, and as each candidate is speaking, Judy will hold up a sign stating 60 seconds remaining and then a stop sign when a candidate should stop speaking. A candidate forum is not a debate. It's an opportunity to share your platform with the community.
Actually, Paula.
Excuse me?
Paula, excuse me for 1 minute. It's actually, I'm going to do a 30-second, meaning that you have 30 more seconds and then a stop sign.
Okay, I thought that's what I said.
I thought I heard 60, but maybe that's
okay.
on me.
All right. We have 60 seconds for the opening and closing, and then 90 seconds for the actual response. And then if there's a rebuttal, that's 60 seconds. A candidate forum is not a debate. It's an opportunity to share your platform with the community. Candidates, make sure you don't have any campaign literature on your screen. The League of Women Voters of the Charleston area is the sponsor of this event. We are nonpartisan, and this is a nonpartisan event. On June 11th, 2024, South Carolina Senate District 42 voters will choose a candidate to run in the general election. Only voters in Senate District 42 who choose to vote in the Democratic primary will be able to vote in this election. South Carolinians may vote in either primary, but only one. I encourage voters to visit the League of Women Voters Vote411.org website to view information to tonight's candidates and any other candidates running in the primaries. Keep checking back on Vote411.org as candidate information is added throughout the election season. Now, the introduction of our candidates. In alphabetical order, these are the candidates for State Senate District 42 Democratic primary. Kim Green, and Ms. Green, if you'd raise your hand. Okay, and Mr. Dion, currently Senator Dion Tedder, raise your hand. Okay, this is our forum format. Candidates will respond to questions in rotating alphabetical order by last name. For example, for the candidate opening statement, it will be Kim Green first and then Dion Tedder and so on. We will proceed in rotating order through the questions. Closing statements will be in reverse alphabetical order. No questions will be asked by the moderator that are directed only at one candidate or of a personal nature. The format again is each candidate will have 60 seconds to make an opening and closing statement. And Judy will let you know as far as signs are concerned. Candidates will have 90 seconds to respond to questions. A candidate may take an additional 60 seconds for a rebuttal after the other candidates have responded. A rebuttal is an opposing argument or contradiction to what an opposing candidate has said. If you want to make a rebuttal, signal us by raising your hand. A candidate is allowed one rebuttal per candidate question. Okay, so remember, a rebuttal is a contradiction to what has been said or an opposing argument. It's not to continue what you were saying previously. Okay, we ask that candidates use closing statements to summarize the issues they have already discussed and their vision for the position they seek. All right, I will be asking the questions, and we want to ensure that you are as specific as you can be. Our first is the opening statement, telling us a little bit about yourself and why you want to run. And this is 60 seconds, and Ms. Green.
Thank you, and good evening to all and to the League of Women Voters. Hello, I am Kim Green, and I am running to serve the people of District 42. We must finally end the long tradition of people who use power to serve themselves instead of our community. For too long, District 42 has been represented by the same self-serving voices beholding to the interests of outsiders who only exploit us. It's time for our voices to be heard and our interests to be served. I will work for you to create living wage jobs, truly affordable housing, making our community safe, a real criminal justice reform by changing the way the state Senate appoints judges. I will always answer to you, not to real estate developers, lobbyists, and Columbia power brokers. Our time is now. Thank you, and remember to vote Kim Green in the Democratic primary, June the 11th. Thank you.
Thank you. And now Dion Tedder will have 60 seconds as an opening statement.
Yes, thank you. First, thank you all for having us and doing this. To those that are watching, I'm your state senator, Dion Tedder. Just real quick, it seems like we were just doing this a few months ago. Those that know, I just ran in a special election to fill the last year of Marlon Kempson's term. The voters selected me. I'm gracious of that. And I promised you, if you gave me an opportunity, I would hit the ground running. And I did just that. And so I'm running for re-election for a full term. Just in my 4 months as a state senator, I've been able to get a lot done. I've passed 2 bills, a lot of amendments adopted. And my main issues have always been public education, criminal justice reform, and housing. And I've been focused on those issues. I'm ready day one. I have been. And again, as a freshman senator, just in 4 months, I got a lot done, and I will continue to do that. So just imagine what I can do in 4 years if you send me back to Columbia to represent you and your interests. So again, June 11th, Dion Tedder, thank you. And May 28th is early voting.
All right, thank you. We're going to move to the first question, and we're going to start with Dion Tedder. Why do you want to represent the citizens of Senate District 42?
Yes, thank you. So I was formerly in the House representing District 109 and now in the Senate. And so the reason I want to, am seeking re-election is to continue the work that I've done. Again, I just spoke about just in 4 months, I was able to get 2 pieces of legislation passed. One dealing with school expulsion, which goes to my education platform, protecting public education and our students and rights. Another one, providing for protection in this new gun law that we unfortunately passed, protecting citizens against racial profiling. So I've been able to get a lot done, and I'm running to continue the work, to continue bringing jobs back home, to continue being an advocate for women's rights, for healthcare, reproductive health, and all of the issues that matter to us. Housing is a huge thing. I tackled that day one when I was in the House, and I'm continuing to do that. In fact, when I was in the House, I was able to get a bill on the floor for affordable housing that was debated out of committee. And so again, just to show you that I'm capable of doing the work, I'm dedicated, and I mean business. And so I'm asking that you send me back, give me a chance to show you what I can do for District 42 in 4 years. And so again, public education, criminal justice reform, and affordable housing have been my top 3 issues since I was elected in 2020. And so again, I would urge you to vote on June 11th. Thank you.
All right. And Ms. Green, same question, 90 seconds. Why do you want to represent the citizens of Senate District 42?
Constituents want to ensure that they have the ear of their senator so that their voices can be represented in Columbia and resources brought back to our community. In speaking with the residents through my community involvement, my community advocacy, concerns about living wage jobs, workers having more month than money, true affordable housing. Constituents have shared that they cannot afford to live where they work. Also, making our community safe. I had the good fortune of, again, serving as first vice president of Charleston NAACP. I have been actively involved in civic and community organizations, and the citizens are expressing that their voices are not being heard. So I have been a long-term activist in the Charleston community. I had the good fortune of serving in the South Carolina State Student Legislature, serving in the Senate, to know how legislation is made, how legislation is used to build bridges so that we can get laws passed. And the citizens of North Charleston and Dorchester County and Charleston County have shared, we need representation where our voices are heard. That is why I am now offering myself at another level to make sure that, again, the citizens of District 42 are heard. And I am prepared to hit the ground running, roll up my sleeves on day one. And I ask you for your vote on June the 11th. Thank you.
Okay, we've completed the first question. We're going to start with Kim Green for our second question. You have 90 seconds. What is your stance on Medicaid expansion?
Thank you for that wonderful question. It's a vital step to ensuring that all of our citizens have access to quality health care. By expanding Medicaid, we can provide coverage to thousands of low-income individuals and families who currently fall through the gaps of the healthcare system. This isn't just about compassion. It's about smart economics. Healthy citizens are more productive, and invested in preventative health care reduces long-term health care costs for everyone. We will be doing the public a disservice if we turn down your tax dollars that have already been paid by you and allocated for use in South Carolina. We should be reminded that prevention costs less than treatment of illnesses and diseases that have gone untreated for too long. So that is my view on expanding Medicaid. Thank you for the question.
All right. And what is your stance on Medicaid expansion? Dion Tedder, 90 seconds. Whoops, you're muted. You're muted.
Okay,
Senator
it wouldn't
Tedder.
it was sending a message that the host wouldn't allow people to unmute themselves. But thank you for this question. It's a great question. I've always been an advocate for Medicaid expansion. It's unfortunate that South Carolina continues to turn down those federal funds. And because with Medicaid expansion, you get more people covered, and particularly when it comes to women's reproductive rights. There are a number of women and children who are uninsured, who are at risk of their coverage being lapsed because there is not the coverage there. By expanding Medicaid, we would ensure over 100,000 more people, specifically 120,000 more children in South Carolina would be covered by Medicaid expansion. And also it would help to reduce certain diseases. We have unhealthy habits in certain communities. And so by expanding Medicaid, we would ensure that more people are covered. Again, South Carolina tends to want to be last to do things, but we just see some of our other southern states are doing it. Georgia, North Carolina have now accepted Medicaid expansion, and it's working for them because it will also reduce unwanted pregnancies as well. Because you'll have that health care insurance available for those young ladies to go to the doctor and those young men to go to the doctor and get annual checkups so that we can be more preventative in long-term diseases. And so my stance is that we do expand Medicaid, and I will continue to push for that.
All right, we're ready to move on to the next question. How will you work to expand job opportunities for your constituents? And this starts with Senator Tedder.
Yes, so jobs are huge. One of the issues we have in Charleston, really in South Carolina, is the cost of living. Housing is an issue. And so to bring jobs here, we tend to tout ourselves as South Carolinians to bring companies and big business here, but we also have to ensure that we're hiring South Carolinians, people that live here, people that are educated here. And what I like to do is create more private-public partnerships between these companies when they come in. We tend to incentivize them with tax credits and the like, but we need to go a step further and sort of mandate that they create these sort of pipelines between our technical schools, our technical colleges, and the employment workforce, our high schools, as well as the businesses. And so I think we have to do that, incentivize these businesses to have a direct hiring pipeline from high school, from technical colleges, straight to their businesses and their companies. And so I'll continue to be a business champion. I'm all about, small government and allowing businesses to make their own decisions. But we also have to make sure that they're doing it within reason. And so again, even with the Chamber of Commerce, I've been rated A+ rating and being business minded and bringing jobs to the area. And so I think it's very important that we do that, but we also have to address housing, and some of these companies can contribute to that as well.
All right, thank you. Kim Green, your response to how will you work to expand job opportunities for your constituents?
Expanding job opportunities for my constituents is one of my top priorities. I believe in a multifaceted approach that includes investing in education and workforce training programs to equip and prepare people with the skills they need for the jobs of the future. Additionally, I would sponsor and support legislation for policies supporting small businesses, incentivizing companies to invest in our communities, and creating more job opportunities in South Carolina. For example, we have community organizations with feeder programs and institutions that offer bridge programs for high school students and apprenticeship programs leading to a skilled labor force. One example is the old C.A. Brown High School. It is now the Palmer campus of a technical school, housing early college and also culinary and cosmetology programs. So that is developing future business owners. As a state senator, I will continue with collaborative efforts to build bridges between community groups and institutions that provide a pathway to education, skill development, and job opportunities. Thank you for that question.
Okay, question number 4. How should South Carolina respond to rising sea levels? And Ms. Green, you are first at 90 seconds.
Thank you for that question. Have I heard this concern from our constituents as well? South Carolina must take proactive measures to address this pressing issue. We need to invest in infrastructure improvements, such as seawalls and flood barriers to protect our coastal communities from the impacts of climate change. Flooding is impacting our neighborhoods in Charleston. I'm a member of CAJM, the Charleston Area Justice Ministry, and we focus on numerous community issues. Gadsden Green is one area severely impacted by flooding. In my neighborhood here in Charleston, we are seeing ponding that we never experienced in prior years. So our roads are deteriorating, water damage is making homes unsafe to live in, and vehicle damage goes beyond affordable repair. So these issues are creating safety and health concerns for the residents and needs to be addressed now. Collaborating with neighboring states and the federal government is essential to developing comprehensive solutions that prioritize safeguarding our neighborhoods as well as coastal areas for future generations. Thank you again for the question.
All right, and now Senator Deon Tedder, How should South Carolina respond to rising sea level? 90 seconds.
Yeah, so we all know that flooding is a major issue in Charleston and the Low Country because of where we sit. And the issue has been for a long time infrastructure. I get concerns from residents that we're building too fast, but we're really just not building smart. The first thing is to acknowledge that climate change is a real thing. And so to combat colleagues on the other side that don't believe in that. But it's a real thing, and we need to put more funding in it. I will continue as state senator to allocate more money in the budget for these types of projects. In fact, in Charleston, there are a lot of projects going on now with SCDOT, with the piping, and trying to redo these pipes in various neighborhoods. You'll see just over in North Charleston, in the Wayland area. They're doing that now. But again, it's expensive. It costs money. But I will continue to advocate for that because we need to bolster Charleston's coastal resilience. And we have to be smart about road expansion and sewage drainage. It's a huge issue. We see it all the time with cars. I mean, barely, if it rains hard, you can barely get downtown. And so again, this is due to more funding, but also it's a huge thing that the Biden administration just did with the infrastructure funds that they just passed down. And so we have to take advantage again of those opportunities from the feds to instill in our communities and use that money for the best.
All right. And our next question is, and this goes to Mr. Tedder, who should determine what books are available in school libraries? 90 seconds.
Well, I believe that the school librarians should choose that. You know, we've had, it's ridiculous that we've spent time in the legislature battling these types of things. So there's so many important issues, such as housing, such as flooding. And, you know, the majority seems to waste time on banning certain books and telling teachers and librarians how to do their job. I simply believe that the librarians know best, the teachers know best. They're the ones with the curriculum. They're the ones teaching. And so we don't need to get caught up in these political, racial fights about what books are or are not appropriate based on the history that it's taught. I was very vocal in defending the books in our schools, but also challenging the CRT and the attack on history being taught, African-American history being taught. And so it stems again from this national political fight that we need to get away from. And I will continue to fight those bills. And in fact, we were successful in stopping DEI this year. And so again, you just need people that are willing to get into the fight, but also understand the issues. And I believe, and I wholeheartedly and fully support our librarians. I've been fighting for them in the legislation that's going through, and also our teachers, a big advocate of teachers and allowing them to do their jobs. We must respect their profession as we do any other profession.
All right. And Ms. Green, who should determine which books are available in school libraries?
When it comes to determining what books are available in school libraries, I believe it's crucial to involve educators, librarians, all parents, and students in the decision-making process. Censorship has no place in our schools, and we must protect academic freedom and the right to access diverse perspectives and ideas. While it's essential to consider age appropriateness and educational value, censorship based on political or ideological biases undermines the purpose of education. So we cannot allow a minority group of parents making a decision for the majority. I will advocate for policies that promote intellectual freedom and support an inclusive curriculum in our schools. Thank you for the question.
All right, thank you. And Mr. Tedder, same question. What can the state, who should determine what books are available in school libraries? Oh, I'm sorry, I gave you that one already. Let's go to number 6, and this is for Kim Green. What can the state legislature do to attract more qualified teachers to the state?
I think that as we've seen in the news recently, we're addressing income levels. We know that there has been a commitment from school teachers where they are providing for resources out of their pockets so that their classrooms can have resources to supplement learning. I think South Carolina could move in a better direction if we sit down, listen to the voices of our teachers, get with our school boards to better allocate resources to improve learning conditions in the classroom so that students are better prepared to receive the learning that they are being taught by the teachers. But most importantly, what I've heard are salaries. We have our teachers that are preparing themselves to be educationally prepared to instruct our students. Now we need to ensure that we're taking care of our teachers so that they would want to be a part of the classroom, contribute to the learning of our students so we can have better outcomes and also close the achievement gap for our students. Thank you for the question.
Mr. Tedder, what can the state legislature do to attract more qualified teachers to the classroom?
So what we recently just did, and I was proud to vote for it, a teacher pay raise. For those that don't know, it's been $42,500 was the starting salary. Now we've approved it to go to $47,000. That's still not enough. I think teachers, I never understood why teachers were paid so little when it's because of the teachers that a lot of us go on to be professionals in our careers. And so one thing we need to do is tackle this housing. I talked to a lot of teachers who have told me, and it's sad that they had to stop teaching at certain schools because they just simply couldn't afford to live in those areas, in those districts. And that's sad. And so what we need to do is develop some type of workforce housing programs, incentivize teachers, the same as we do with big companies and big businesses to attract them. We always incentivize with tax credits. Well, why don't we incentivize our teachers by providing them housing vouchers, providing them their own communities to live in near their schools, also their own budgets for classroom materials. My aunt is a retired teacher, and she always had to use her own money, her personal money, to get materials for students in the classroom, and that's just unacceptable. So again, we have to continue to raise the wage because we're competing with other states, and they're taking our good quality teachers away. We have to again respect the profession because it is a profession of teaching, and we have to treat them as such. And so I'd raise the wages and include workforce housing so that they can live where they work.
All right. Same question for you, Miss Green. No, you have that one. All right.
Thank you.
Sorry, my mistake. Do you support and this is for Deon Tedder. Do you support the Clementa C. Pinckney hate crime bill pending in the state legislature? And if so, do you think anything else should be added to it? And that's for Mr. Tedder.
Yes, so from day one, I've been an advocate for hate crimes legislation. In fact, when I was a member of the House of Representatives, I voted for this bill in the House. And as you know, it continues to pass in the House, but gets stuck in the Senate. Well, now that I've had an opportunity to serve in the Senate for just the last session, 4 months, what I've seen is that their rules are different. The majority leader is hell-bent on not allowing this legislation to go through for a lot of reasons that are just unacceptable. I will continue to push for it. In fact, what we've seen now is local municipalities passing this legislation, which I commend because it's sending a message that the same people who elect us to go to Columbia, they elect our local councilmen, our councilwomen, and our mayors. And you see now North Charleston, City of Charleston, Mount Pleasant, I believe Somerville just passed one. And so it's showing that the community is engaged and wants this. And so I'm hopeful and prayerful that we can get this passed. I think that there has been some compromise in that legislation to take some things out, but still we're not there, and we just have to continue to advocate. But this is why it's important for our voters to remain active and call on their state senators and those particularly who are holding this up so that we can get a hearing. And like I tell the majority, all we want to do is have the opportunity to debate the issue. And they are keeping us from that, unfortunately, because of the numbers and us being in the minority.
All right, thank you. Once again, do you support the Clementa C. Pinckney hate crime bill pending in the state legislature? And if so, do you think anything else should be added to it? And that's for you, Ms. Green.
Thank you. Senator Clemente Pinckney was an excellent leader, an exceptional pastor, and legislation was introduced in the House by our local state representative, Wendell Gilliard. It did pass through the House, and I would support that as the next senator for Senate District 42. It is unconscionable that we have elected officials that worked with and served with the Honorable Clemente Pinckney, yet we know the statute of his being, but we're not supporting a legislation that speaks to his legacy in terms of the protections of citizens here in South Carolina. That's where a skilled elected official, which I am offering myself as, would be able to build bridges, break down barriers so that we can move legislation through the legislature that benefits the citizens of South Carolina and speaks to the legacy of an honorable man that served our state. So I would support that legislation and I would advocate for the passing of it. Thank you for the question.
All right. And we will start with Ms. Green for this next question, 90 seconds. What method of selection do you endorse for judges in South Carolina?
The way that judges are selected in our state Senate presently, that system has to be addressed. We have a process that includes a legislature that has attorneys that are legislators that are deciding on who become judges in South Carolina. No system is perfect, but that is one that needs to be addressed. And that is something that I have spoken about to give the example, a quid pro quo. The way that judges are appointed, the impartiality of can be compromised when judges rule on cases represented by the elected officials who voted them into office. Recently, in a widely publicized case, a judge passed a lenient sentence to include no jail time for a man convicted of raping 2 women who was represented by a state legislator. The current reform needs to be addressed in conference committee and are steps forward, but they're not fully repairing the problem and of course does not address the past injustices of the system of appointed judges. I would make this a priority to review that process and make suggestions to reform that process. Thank you for the question.
Okay, and Mr. Tedder, same question. What method of selection do you endorse for judges in South Carolina? 90 seconds.
Yes, thank you. So if people have been paying attention, we actually took this up this year and it is now going to conference committee for judicial reform. And so the system that we have, does it work? Absolutely. Is it perfect? No. Can it be improved? Yes, which is why I supported the bill that will now go to conference committee because the House and the Senate couldn't agree on which version they want. But we do need some changes in that. There are several states that do popular election. I think that's a bad idea. And because then you run the risk of judges being influenced and having to run campaigns and raise money, which really takes away from what they should be doing. We have great jurists in this state. some of the finest judges. And in fact, our former Supreme Court Justice, Justice Toll, in committee, she testified extensively on this and said that the system that we have, the merit selection process, is a good one. And obviously we all agree that it can be improved. Are there certain bad actors at times? Yes. And so again, it can be improved, and we're working on that. But I do believe that even I'm not opposed to the way the federal government does it, by advice and consent of the Senate, and have those hearings where the governor would essentially have some power to appoint or pick somebody, and then get advice and consent from the Senate.
Okay, here we go. Next question, and this is for Mr. Tedder, 90 seconds. Should taxpayer dollars be used to incentivize specific companies or industries to move to South Carolina? And I think we've touched on this a little, but we want you to go into to some more specifics. So this is for Mr. Tedder.
Yes, so that's a great question, because that essentially is what happens. To get businesses to come here, such as Mercedes, Volvo, Boeing, they get tax incentives. And to be competitive, we have to provide some type of incentive to compete with our neighboring states, Georgia, North Carolina, and the like. Because again, we want to attract jobs. We want to attract good paying jobs. However, we must toe the line and make sure that when we're giving these incentives, these companies are investing back in the communities, that they're building housing, that they're investing in our schools, in our high schools, our public schools, our technical colleges, and our colleges and universities. And so there should be something in return. We can't simply take away incentivizing businesses. I don't believe that we can do that. If we do that, we will lose a lot of businesses to our neighboring states, and simply, and quite frankly, we won't have the jobs here. But again, we have to ensure that these companies who get these incentives are actually investing in our communities, that they're engaged on the ground level. They're giving funding to our nonprofits. They're involved and engaged on the ground, providing these pipeline programs that I spoke of earlier, where the high school students can intern there directly, where these college students can get jobs directly after college, that they're hiring people that live in South Carolina, that pay taxes in South Carolina.
All right. And now, Ms. Green, same question. Should taxpayer dollars be used to incentivize specific companies or industries to move to South Carolina?
That we've seen the results, Boeing, Volvo, Mercedes-Benz, in terms of offering such incentives. We do have to provide that balance. Bringing those type industries and businesses to South Carolina that could provide jobs for our residents. We need to have a balance, though. We have a situation where we have industry that may want to build next to homes. We have an issue in North Charleston where a proposed boat manufacturing company wants to build a plant near the Accoby, Socorro, Union Heights area. A state official can use their position to bring together various stakeholders to ensure that the needs of the community are prioritized, that we have a balance between that business coming in and providing jobs, but also not displacing our residents or bringing industry that may contaminate the soil next to where our residents live. As a state official, I could ensure that agencies such as DHEC in this scenario could provide environmental health impact studies, so we can make sure that if we're bringing in manufacturing companies, if we're bringing in businesses, what we want to make sure that the residents want to have that in our neighborhoods. We want to ensure that the tax advantages that we're offering to these businesses, that there's a balance to the benefit of having that industry in our communities. We just can't open arms, say, come to South Carolina. We have to have a balance. We have to do our due diligence to ensure that livability for our citizens are addressed. Thank you.
All right, next question, and we're starting with Kim Green, the South Carolina Constitutional Carry Second Amendment Preservation Act of 2024 has been passed over the objections of many in law enforcement. How do you view the balance between individual gun rights and public safety?
That goes back to the permitless legislation that recently passed. I am for law enforcement. I support law enforcement, but we do have to have a balance. We do have unfortunate situations where we may have, give a scenario, a gentleman that may be convicted of domestic violence, but their rights are not removed from them carrying a weapon because it may interfere with their recreational use of going hunting. So we really have to look at this issue to provide a balance to ensure the safety of our citizens, acknowledging the rights of those who have registered weapons to protect themselves. So that is something that I would look into and research so that I could better respond in terms of the safety of our residents, as well as upholding the rights of gun owners.
All right, thank you. And Mr. Tedder, 90 seconds. The South Carolina Constitutional Carry Second Amendment Preservation Act of 2024 has been passed over the objections of many in law enforcement. How do you view the balance between individual gun rights and public safety?
Well, one, it's interesting that the legislature picks and chooses when they want to listen to law enforcement. They opposed this, and the majority pushed it through anyway. I believe in the Second Amendment right, your right to protect yourself, your right to carry. The problem with this bill is that it requires no training or education. And so I'm all for people having the right to carry. In fact, if you notice, last year we passed open carry with training, which really is constitutional carry. It just required that you had to get training, have your CWP. We've taken that away now and allow 18-year-olds to carry concealable weapons without any education or training. That is ridiculous. So I think you have to balance your Second Amendment rights, but also common sense legislation, just education. And so in this bill, a part of it was just now everybody being able to openly carry. Law enforcement were concerned because how can they distinguish who can legally and not legally carry a weapon? Well, I'll tell you how it's going to end up with racial profiling, which is why I got an amendment adopted in this bill that says law enforcement cannot stop you just simply for having a weapon, because we have to protect the rights of all citizens if we're going to do things like this. Again, these are the unintended consequences of those types of legislation that, again, they push through for political points. But I was successful in getting that adopted in that bill. But I think it's horrible to allow 18-year-olds to carry without training or education.
All right, thank you so much. We have one more question before we go to your closing remarks, and we are changing this up a bit, and we are going to start with, let's see, let's start with Kim Green. It's okay. Dion, we're gonna, like I said, we're changing this up a bit. Last question before closing remarks. You have 90 seconds. Where in your district might your constituents see you hanging out? Where in your district might your constituents see you hanging out?
Yes, so that's a good question because I'm always at community events. So they can see me any event going on, particularly in North Charleston where I live, North Charleston area. I'm always engaged. They can find me at schools, at our public schools, reading to the kids, going to career day, because that's what I've always done, even before I was elected, because I believe in instilling my knowledge and to younger people, engaging them and uplifting them. You can see me at church in my district, different churches, but specifically mine. I attend Royal Baptist in North Charleston. Again, you can see me at various community events, just attending and mingling with the community. You can find me at local restaurants. minority-owned restaurants, and the barbershop. And so I run into constituents in the grocery store that ask questions, and I'm very accessible, always have been open and open to engaging in questions and ideas, because that's what it's about. People send me to Columbia to advocate for the issues that they care about. And that's what I do. I go and provide them a voice, and I speak up for my constituents. And you can find me doing neighborhood cleanups on Saturday mornings in certain neighborhoods, at community meetings. And so again, I'm always out and about in the community, North Charleston, and the city of Charleston.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Green, where in your district might your constituents see you hanging out?
I am all over. The district, it does cover the lower portion of Dorchester County, so which is a part of North Charleston. I work in North Charleston. I own a home in North Charleston. I purchased my first home in the Pepper Hill subdivision. So you will see me talking with former neighbors in that area. You'll see me engaging with coworkers where I work in North Charleston. I am actively involved, as I mentioned earlier, in CAJM, my sorority and other civic community organizations that I participate in. It has me all over the district. It has me handing out, participating with other organizations, distributing food to clients. It has me locking arm in arm with elected officials who have asked me to coordinate and sponsor coat giveaways, haircuts, downtown Charleston, where I presently live in Peninsula Charleston. I have been a member of my church since I was a part of the Sunbeam Choir. Formerly, you would see me walking my 2 dogs through the neighborhood in North Central. You may see me walking or biking the peninsula with friends who we've been friends since high school. You will see Kim Green, and it has been very humbling as I have gone throughout the district to elevate my community service now to represent residents at the state level, that they are very excited, they are enthusiastic, they know my work and they know my commitment. I come from a family.
Thank you, Ms. Green.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to go to closing remarks, and we're going to start with Mr. Tedder. If you could provide us with a closing statement. You have 60 seconds.
All right. So again, I'm Deon Tedder. I'm running for re-election. I've showed the people what I can do. I'm in the community all the time, have been even before I was elected to the House. But just some of the things we talked about, rising sea levels. I have a high A rating from the Conservation Voters of South Carolina, CVSC. In fact, they're coming out with their scorecard soon, and I anticipate I'll still have a A score with them, because I've always championed energy efficient issues, but also education. I've been supported by the SCEA, the South Carolina Education Association, because I support teachers and I support students. And so again, I've shown you what I can do in 4 months, which is unheard of. And the majority, they joke that freshman senators are not supposed to talk this much, but that's what my constituents sent me to do. I've engaged in debate across the aisle, pointing out key issues to help change legislation, making big impacts. And again, I passed 2 bills, adopted a lot of amendments in just 4 months. So give me a chance for 4 years. Thank you.
Okay. All right. And Kim Green, 60 seconds, closing remarks.
Thank you. I stand committed to serving the people of District 42 with dedication, integrity, and passion for positive change. My priorities revolve around, as I've shared, ensuring access to healthcare, expanding job opportunities, and addressing climate change that impacts our citizens, and upholding educational freedoms. I pledge to tirelessly advocate for our community needs and concerns, and also working collaboratively to enact meaningful legislation and foster inclusive growth. I will always be visible and available to the constituents, and with your support, I'll be representing you in the South Carolina Senate, representing District 42. I'm
All
looking
right.
forward to that term, and thank you for the opportunity.
All right. Thank you, Senator Tedder, and thank you, Ms. Green. We want to thank you for taking the time to hear from our candidates. We encourage you to study the issues carefully, learn about the positions of each candidate, and vote for the candidate of your choice on June 11th. South Carolinians may vote in either primary, but only one. Early voting for the primaries will be available weekdays from May 28th to June 7th. Please consult scvotes.gov to determine your early voting location based on your address and county. Many thanks to the candidates tonight. I'd also like to thank the Charleston Area League of Women Voters volunteers for making this event possible. Good evening.
Thank you all.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.